Hey Joe, are you ready for some football?
We're gonna go state.
What's up, y'all, and welcome to Uncultured Universe, the podcast where friends and lovers show each other movies, TV, music, or books just to get a little bit more cultured. I am your first string hunky host, Justin, and with me is the untested and naive Uncultured, Joe.
I
Welcome,
just want to
Joe.
read Vonnegut.
Right? Like, what a choice. Like,
Wow.
like it could have been any other writer that you read in high school, but they went straight up the middle, you
God,
know?
I too played sports in high school, and I was on the bench a lot in varsity, and even I would have been like nerd.
Fucking nerd. Man. Today we're going to be looking at the coming of age, Southern fried teen sports drama comedy, Varsity Blues from 1999. Um, as if you couldn't infer, and if you missed our previous couple episodes, um, this month we're looking at sports films. Now, I know if you look at us and if you know either of us, um, we're totally sports guys, right?
We
We
love
are
the
top tier
we love the
athletes.
sports.
We love the sports. So this is actually it's funny because we're definitely not sports bros, but cinema is nothing if not replete with many sports movies.
Listen, I will say, I am not a football like in real life person. I never really played it. I don't really like watch it actively. However, football movies and TV I am known to consume. I was raised in the good church of Remember the Titans.
Mm.
And so that is where I was coming from with this movie. And number one, I did not know this movie was rated R. Justin, there's
Oh
so
yeah,
much stuff happening in this.
this movie is R as fuck, and looking back,
They're not
I,
allowed to say that stuff.
you can't say that in high school. But damn it if they don't. And retroactively looking back at it, like I should not have been watching this movie at 12 years old in 1999, but I did, and boy howdy.
Listen, there is some stuff in this movie that is maybe not PC, but I give movies like this a pass if it is specifically about something like high school. Because again, having existed in those locker rooms growing up, it's rather accurate what is happening. Not necessarily like the John Voight of it all, but like the banter. Like wow, takes me back.
I would love to dig into that. But yeah, that is a note that I have is that this is a really nice look at real high school sports like team dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
And even just like some of the drama, like nobody loves their head coach. Everyone kind of has their problems with certain coaches or whatever.
Oh,
And
people love their head coach, Justin.
well,
Head coach is surrogate dad for a lot of people.
in some cases, mine, one of the coaches is your dad.
Tell me
Shout
more
out
about that.
shout out dad. He was, one of the coaches, of my high school hockey team. Um,
Right,
no
because you
no
were more on the hockey side of things, yeah.
yeah, we'll get into the sports background, um,
Yeah,
here in
that
a
is a
bit.
bullet point.
That is a bullet point, it is a talking point. But,
Uh-huh.
yeah, before we dig too much deeper, let's go ahead and get some things out of the way, and look through some numbers and some incidentals, provisos, and things like that before we get into the meat.
Some quid pro quos.
Yeah, some of that. So this is Varsity Blues, directed by Brian Robbins. The movie he did previous was Good Burger in 1997. That's
Okay.
what was on his resume when he came to MTV Studios and said, "Let me do that football movie. I'll do the shit out
Uh-huh.
of that football movie."
Uh-huh.
Um, Brian Robbins' filmography is a fucking whirlwind. If you have time, go on Wikipedia and check it out. He went on this weird, like, Eddie Murphy stretch for, like, 3
Oh.
years. He did, Norbit, Meet Dave, and 1,000 Words, all
Ooh.
lower tier Eddie Murphy bad comedies. Um, specifically, he was nominated for a Golden Raspberry for Worst Director on, one of those movies.
Yeah, I don't know how confirmed it is, but from what I understand, Eddie Murphy appears in Dreamgirls,
Mm.
basically wins all of the awards up to the Oscar for his role in Dreamgirls. Norbit comes out around that time, and he potentially loses the Oscar because of Norbit.
They almost took it back.
No, like he absolutely he didn't win the Oscar.
Oh, okay.
For Little Miss Sunshine, and people think it might be because of Norbit. Maybe some other things, but like Norbit was
Wow.
so not well received. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
and,
that is my knowledge of Norbit there.
so that definitely tracks, being nominated for the worst director for Norbit. He also did The Shaggy Dog starring Tim
Wow.
Allen. Um, so
I'm
like oh,
also
yeah.
go ahead, go ahead. No.
I was gonna say, like, his filmography is, it's a mixed bag, but, later down the line, he went on to direct the TV show Blue Mountain State, which is
Mhm.
essentially Varsity Blues, but for television.
That makes sense. I'm seeing that he did The Perfect Score too. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I know nothing of that. Tell me.
It's like early Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans, and then also
Ooh.
like Erica Christensen and some folks. It came out in like 2004, so it was always around in like the trailers of movies that we were watching.
Yeah.
It's about six teenagers who are like so bad or so like nervous about taking tests that it's like an Ocean's 11 style heist movie about them stealing the SAT score answers.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then like the resolution of it is like I think they do end up stealing the scores and then they're like we don't need them. We're just going to do it without them. And then they just like take the SAT like normal.
Yeah, the SAT scores were the ones we made along the way.
Yeah. And it's
That's
one of those
amazing.
movies where like I'm pretty sure they have like a hologram of like the building where the SAT scores are stored and they do like a heist.
Wow,
So that's incredible.
we should put that on the list because that sounds insane. I would love to see a young Chris Evans and company, do insane things in the name of a perfect SAT score.
Yeah.
Let's see. This movie, Varsity Blues, was also written by W. Pete Iliff. Not familiar with their work, but this movie stars James Van Der Beek, John Voight, Paul Walker, Ron Lester, Scott Caan, Ali Larter, Amy Smart. Released January 15th, 1999, with a very low budget of 16 million and
Not bad.
a box office of 54. Actually, did pretty good.
Yeah.
It was that sweet spot, of late 90s, early 2000s teen movies, which is a thing we'll talk about in a little bit. But it was just the right time, the right kind of audience, that kind of stuff. This was a MTV Studios produced film, and that was the target demographic of the time.
Mhm.
All high school middle school kids, who love this kind of shit and live for this shit. Um, some awards from this movie. James Van Der Beek won Choice Movie Breakout at the 1999 Teen Choice Awards, the Best Breakout Performance at the 1999 MTV Movie Awards, as well as the Best Male Newcomer at the 2000 Blockbuster Entertainment Awards.
Can I say something that's maybe not controversial at all?
You just want to spit some facts?
I think Vanderbeek is really great in this movie.
He rules in this movie, honestly. He is so grounded amidst the madness of everything that's taking place around him. Um, Even though he partakes in some of the said shenanigans, I really enjoy his performance.
I had like a weirdly insane amount of notes that I was just jotting down. Like I've got like 2 pages here. At
Mm.
one point, one of my notes was, "This is like Hamlet, but it's him trying to figure out if he wants to sleep with Ali Larder." Like his little journey was kind of Shakespearean, and I liked
Mm.
that he wasn't like the perfect good kid. Like he's reading Vonnegut while he's on the bench, like I roll, but like
What a
he's
rebel.
also not like a total nerd. Like I I am confused about his popularity in this school, because like
Mm.
he's not like an absolute loser who just happens to be second string QB. Like he's friends with everyone. They're all just like friends and they hang out.
Yeah.
Um like, are he and Paul Walker friends or more like kind of coworkers here?
I think it's kind of a mix, right? Now I was never on varsity sports. Um, the high school hockey league that I played in was not recognized, was not like chartered or whatever through the high school. It was just like a local league, but like every high school in the county had a team.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't letter in hockey, which sucked. But it's fine. I'm not bitter about it. But so like we didn't carry the same amount of like cachet as like the high school football kids would.
Mm-hmm.
Um, wearing their letter jackets, parking next to each other in the senior parking lot, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I'm imagining that they obviously grew up together. West Canaan is a small town. They all grew up playing football together, but I imagine it's kind of like friends and coworkers, right? Um, as Vanderbeek gets older, he's, questioning his place in the world in this shitty ass town. And yeah, he's rubbing elbows with the popular kids, but he probably doesn't consider himself a popular kid.
Yeah, I'd wonder. There's not as many scenes inside the school itself, but I'd wonder what like the lunch table situation is, because that would
Mm.
really tell you who is hanging out in what circle. But I mean, circling back, you are talking to a two-time varsity athlete in a couple different sports. So
Oh.
I did play soccer, and I was on the JV team. And then what would happen was they would pick some folks on the JV team to kind of like be subs for varsity.
Hmm.
I actually subbed into my older brother's position on the
Ooh.
team. There, nothing psychological going on there.
No.
And then in my senior year, I was like full varsity on soccer. And then I also did cross country. And then
Ooh.
there's not really JV or varsity there. It's more just like who's the top seven or
Yeah.
so within a
Yeah.
race. And I kind of held that seven sweet spot, which is nice
Ooh.
because your score doesn't count really, but
Sure.
you're like the alternate.
Yeah. That's amazing. I was curious like what your high school sporting history looked like, and
Yeah.
how that translated to this movie. It was really a shot in the dark because I wasn't familiar with your sporting background, but yeah.
I went to high school in North Georgia. So um for those who don't know the layout of Georgia, North Georgia is more southern than Atlanta, which is kind of in the middle of Georgia.
Yeah.
It's in the mountains. It's more like Appalachian. And yeah, I played soccer and I ran cross country, depending on the time of year. Cross country was like for the girls and the gays, kind of. That's how the teams were laid out.
That's
And
fine.
then soccer was more intense, but we were like good. And like our football team in high school wasn't really that good, even though like a lot of the focus was on football, as you can imagine.
Yeah, it's the
Whereas
South.
like
Yeah.
the soccer team and I think like the girls softball team made it to state like every single year. And then the football team was just like
Meh.
okay.
Eh.
Uh
Yeah,
um
in for worldwide listeners, for countrywide listeners, yeah, in the South, the school that you go to is either going to definitely profiteer, but also like push either football or baseball.
Yeah.
And one of those sports is like the it of the time. So like, or basketball was another one. So like our high school, my senior year football team wasn't that great either, even though like the years prior, we were really good. Apparently, I don't know, but our basketball team was not to be trifled with. So we made up for it for having a shitty football team. We had a really kick-ass basketball team. Um,
Yeah, basketball kind of was where everyone came together. I think it's just like easier to watch because it's like indoors and everyone's really like close quarters and there's like a clear student section that you can go and like yell and cheer with folks. Everyone
yeah,
got into basketball.
it's so much faster paced. Football is so
Hmm.
goddamn slow.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I remember going to high school football games, and it felt really weird and out of place for me because it was just like, we're not that good. Why are you guys cheering so hard? you know. But like football was never my thing. I only played one season of like little league football in
Yeah.
sixth grade.
How'd you do?
Actually, in my position, I was actually pretty good. I was a an offensive lineman because in sixth grade, like fifth grade, middle school, I was a little husky. I was a big boy. I hit puberty
You just
first, so I was
you
just
just
big.
knock them down.
Yeah, so I was just knocking folks down left and right. But also, our football team was goddamn terrible. I don't think we won a single game all season. Uh,
Someone's got to lose.
Someone's got to lose, which is fine. So, like after that season, I was just like, you know what, football's not for me. I think I'm just going to stick with hockey, which I did, and I was really good at hockey. So,
Sweet. What
uh,
was your position in hockey? Like how does that all work?
I was a defensive wing. Well, not even wing, really. We played roller hockey because there's not a lot of ice rinks in uh, the east of Atlanta, where I grew up in Gwinnett County.
So you were like Keenan Thompson and D2 Mighty Ducks.
Yes, although that's street hockey. This was roller hockey. There's a roof and shit like that, but definitely Doug Keenan Thompson in D2 Mighty Ducks. Um, that was like my awakening of like, oh, I could play this sport. This seems fun.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, before we dig into any bit more, let's look at this trailer, Joe. This is the most amazing thing I've ever done. I'm so proud of this trailer. Love it. Fucking love it, dude.
Listen, I have nothing but praise for the soundtrack to this movie. I have been
It's so
listening
good.
to Run by Collective Soul for 4 days now.
Yes. Yeah, dude, this soundtrack is incredible, and, I think it obviously, again, it speaks to the moment in time of, MTV's popularity,
Mhm.
TRL, that kind of still, like, punk rock attitude, '90s alternative stuff. Um, this this feels like this movie takes place in the same universe as something like Can't Hardly Wait.
Oh my god, I was gonna say I thought about Can't Hardly Wait while I was watching this.
Like they take place on like opposite sides of the country,
Hmm.
essentially, just because they feel so similar. I mean, and that's just it's a product of the time. Everyone's kind of the same age, who's acting at the same time. So like, who are big stars at the moment. So it yeah, that's obviously like why the movie just like sticks in my mind. I've probably only seen this movie like maybe twice, 2 or 3 times at
Yeah,
most, but
what
like
was like your first like experience with it?
so I saw this when it came out in 1999. I was 12. I
Mhm.
don't know how I managed like me and my friend Mike saw this, and I don't know how we convinced our parents to let us watch this R-rated football movie.
Uh-huh.
But they did, and I can't remember if any one of the parents were they had to have been because 'cause we're fucking 12 years old. But, yeah, like we were, let's see, so I was in 7th grade at that time. So I did not start playing football again, but I was like after seeing this movie, I was like, "Football looks awesome, and high school looks like it's gonna rule. I can't wait." We were so hyped on it. Like, I remember being so excited by this movie. Like, that allure of playing high school sports, like, just seemed I don't know, just like the pinnacle of like, "Man, I can't wait for another year and a half before I can start high school, and then I can play crazy sports like this." It wasn't about, like, the whipped cream bikini or the strip club. I was, surprisingly, uh, I was like, "I wanna play high school sports and, like, do something cool."
That sense of community. Yeah, there's a lot of like really interesting ideas in this movie that kind of surprised me. It was more than I thought it was going to be because I was coming at it thinking like, oh, it's kind of in the Can't Hardly Wait era. It'll be fun, but really it'll feel kind of dated. It'll feel kind of cringy to watch in certain areas. And it wasn't that as much as I thought it was going to be because
Yeah.
it's more like it's most of the movie is kind of taking this crazy approach where it's like, is this a coming of age comedy drama, but also a psychological thriller about how much these kids can crack under pressure? And it was kind of cool in that way. Like everything's super heightened. It's about this football team in high school. I'll give the whole plot description in a second, but like it's this football team in high school under John Voight, and he's like the devil incarnate.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, how far will these kids go to kind of like balance out the insane amount of support that they are getting from support and like praise and worship that they're getting from their coach and their town entirely just for being good football players versus like the absolute end of that spectrum where like if they do anything wrong or if they're bad at football, like it all completely turns on them and it's
Yeah.
all just like a mind fuck for them. And so it's about like some of the kids bend, some of the kids snap, literally. And I, if I have one complaint about this movie, I'm not sure it sticks that landing. I wanted it to continue through to the end,
Mm.
and it almost seemed like while I like the moment where like they kind of all revolt against John Voight and finish the game themselves, I wanted to see like the conclusion of that thought and almost have them like not win the game and wrap it up neatly with a bow at the end.
Yeah, and it was one of those, like, typical '90s kind of things, like and as I was watching it, I was like, "Alright, we're nearing the end." I can't remember how it ends, if it's the freeze frame with the text
Mhm.
over top in slow motion kind of a thing, or if it was gonna be a voiceover, and it was a voiceover.
Billy Bob died 3 days later.
I know. Yeah, this massive brain tumor, like, that's a note that I have of, like, this movie, um and like it didn't even register for me the first couple times I saw it, way younger. But yeah,
Mhm.
like you're absolutely right about like the psychological fuckery of this movie because I feel like if this movie were produced by another um uh offshoot or whatever, maybe if it was done independently, they could have been way more brave with some of the storytelling pieces. Like, they absolutely should have just gone the extra mile and, like, maybe have a kid, like, unalive themselves because of the pressure. Or
Which they kind of like pull the rug out from under you at one point. You kind of think it's happening and then it doesn't really.
yeah, like, and they could, because they planted the seed and they could have taken it there. I think the story writers wanted to kind of, like, pull that string of, like, this
Yeah.
could actually happen. And that would have, kind of given it, well, hold on. Have you seen Dead Poet Society?
No, but I know of it. And
Okay.
I probably know where you're going here.
But, like, it could have gone that route where it's coming of age tale, that kind of thing, breaking out and all that kind of stuff, but still it's rife with drama
Mm-hmm.
and, like, real heartbreaking scenes, and it could have gone that route, which I think would have made it a more, like, impactful movie and
Mm-hmm.
probably would have given it more praise, I think,
Yeah.
than kind of some of the cheaper thrills and chills and spills of this movie.
Yeah, to its credit, I will say like the core of the movie, the meat on the bone is very like juicy and I think at a higher level than I was expecting in terms of just like quality. Like even the way like some of the football is shot. Like
Ooh.
I've literally never seen it before. They're like flying through the air at points when um Thunderstruck is playing and I was like, "Wait, what is happening?" I've never seen football filmed like this before.
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
it seems like maybe some of the edges of it were smoothed over maybe from like a studio point of view, like we need to make this more of like an acceptable like regular blockbuster, but there's still a lot of interesting stuff at that core that
Yeah,
you're playing around with.
yeah, I think unfortunately the comedy pieces kind of like are that softening edge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's make Billy Bob a bumbling drunk idiot as opposed to, like, a
So many
really
notes about Billy Bob.
a really tortured individual. Like, let's explore some of the deeper implications of the stripper teacher versus just, like, making her a punchline and all that kind of stuff. You know, um Which really boggles my mind that, like, no one else knew about that. Like, in any other high school situation, that would have been,
It's
like,
insane.
gobbled up so fast. Everyone would have known.
It's insane. I mean, and you can tell the movie kind of knows because it does try and have them mention many times like these kids are 18 years old and we are in the state of Texas where that is legal. Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of all caps notes on my end around the teacher, and then I think several different times throughout the movie I was like, wait, is Billy Bob about to die? Is that going to be the turning point in this movie? Because you get worried like literally 5 separate times and think like, wait, is this about to be incredibly tragic?
It could have gone that route, and I think that would have been, I mean, like, not to sound insensitive, like, that would have been rad, from
Yeah.
a movie storytelling, perspective. Like, Jonathan Moxon should have paid more dearly for some of the shit that he tried to pull,
Oh,
but
I
ultimately did
I
not.
I have thoughts around what he gets away with in this
Yeah.
movie,
I
but
mean, but that's ultimately also kind of the through storyline of, like, these kids could get away with murder because they are star football players in this podunk town. It's wild.
it's just it's weird because the movie takes kind of a weird turn in the last 20 minutes where it starts to focus all of a sudden on the idea of heroes and that becomes like his driving purpose where it didn't really have that in the beginning and they're just like throwing around the word hero a lot and like winning the game makes you a hero and standing up to the coach makes you a hero and it's kind of like hang on, like I liked where we were before where it was almost becoming like the power of going from second string to first string is corrupting this guy.
Yeah.
And he is not a perfect angel and he maybe doesn't deserve this perfect ending. It's juicy and I like it. But going back to like weirdly rad scenes in this,
Mhm.
there's we're jumping all around here as we are wont to do. There's the scene where Billy Bob is like cracking under the pressure. He's getting drunk on the field at night, as any good football movie or show has at least one scene where this is happening.
Yeah.
And he is shotgunning his childhood football trophies from the
Ooh,
back of his car, I was
yeah,
like, this is kind of hardcore as hell. I kind of
yeah.
love this image. It's insane. I had never even like thought of that or pictured that in my head.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's really heartbreaking, watching
Mhm.
that scene of just, like, being put through the ringer over and over again, and, he's just, like, always being told, "Too fat, too stupid, too slow, Billy Bob," and just
Mhm.
like and just housing this handle of
Oh
whiskey,
my
and
god.
it's just so irresponsible.
So uncomfortable how much he was drinking with each gulp. I was like, "Oh god."
But, like, Jesus Christ, like, what yeah, there's so many cool scenes we can call out here in a second, but before we go any further, while it's all fresh in your brain and swimming around in there, let's just go ahead and do the plot description.
There's
I'm
so
gonna
much happening.
I'm gonna give you 1 minute, and you're gonna give me the plot of 1999's Varsity Blues. Are you ready, Joe?
I am ready.
Kickoff, Blue 42 Hut.
Okay, Varsity Blues is about a high school football team in Texas. They are coached by John Voight, who has like never lost before. And he's putting a lot of pressure on the boys, and the entire town is putting a lot of pressure on them because they're obsessed with football in Texas. And Paul Walker's the main QB, and he is doomed from the start. And Vanderbeek is the backing QB, the second string QB. Paul Walker gets injured in a game, and it's maybe the fault of Billy Bob, who was previously injured and he was supposed to be blocking and he didn't correctly. And so now he has guilt. Paul Walker's injured. Vanderbeek comes in. Turns out he's really good and like smart because of course he is. And every play that he thinks up in his head ends up with them getting a touchdown. So like they're doing really good, but he's getting a lot of weird pressure and he hates the coach. And the coach is like, no, you're going to do it my way or the highway, even though when he does it his own way, they win a lot. And so the whole movie is about like maybe the power and the pressure is getting to him. Is this changing him fundamentally? Does he just want to go and be a writer at Brown because he's going to major in like something like English or something like that?
Something like that.
And meanwhile, on the sidelines, I know I'm going over a minute here.
It's
His
all good, keep
parents
going.
are giving him pressure. His dad used to play high school football for John Voight. I want to explore that timeline. I don't really get it. And he's kind of dating Paul Walker's younger sister, who is Amy Smart. I don't understand how together the movie thinks they are, because it's kind of okay when he pretty much cheats on her with Paul Walker's previous girlfriend, Allie Larder. I want to talk about the Allie Larder of it all. And like that kind of ends up okay, and Vanderbeek gets away with it. And then at the very end, it all comes together where they're like trying to go for the district championship. It's not even state. That's the thing. Like they're going for like district, which is like whatever. Like what is this,
Peanuts, yeah.
Glee? And then so they end up like the coach is like pressuring them too hard. Whenever people get injured, he has his like Frankenstein doctor shoot them with steroids in their knee or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Vanderbeek is like, enough. We're not doing this. We're not playing for you. We're going to play for ourselves. And they all kind of revolt against the coach, and the coach goes off. And in like a more hardcore movie, he would have like kind of shot himself in the office, but he
Oh,
doesn't.
yeah, you're right.
And so in like the last 20 minutes of the game, I don't know how legal this is, but they all go out and they coach themselves. And Paul Walker comes back in and crushes, and he's like, he's the coach now. And they see, this is where it kind of falls apart for me at the end, because they kind of just like win, and that is the resolution of the movie, rather than like a deeper resolution here, where it's more like, let's address why this town is so fucking obsessed with football.
Absolutely, and I was gonna say, like, what is your suggestion for a better rounded ending? And
I I
y
think I let's take a look at it from the point of view of the parents in this movie. I don't think they deserve this ending, because literally it ends with them winning the football game. Everyone is cheering, and then it kind of zooms out, and then you remember that Vanderbeek had narration at the beginning, and so we come back to Vanderbeek narrating things and being like, I went to Brown and I stayed with Amy Smart, and Paul Walker became a football coach and had 3 kids, and yada yada, got
what
recruited,
and what did he say?
and
Like, "And no one saw Coach again." Like,
no one, and the coach never coached again. And it's just like it was so way too neatly wrapped up, and I almost want like consequence. I want like I want things to be more complicated at the end. I think the town itself needs to reckon with like all the pressure that they're putting on these boys, and the fact that like there's very much an energy of this is gonna affect your life for the rest of your life. This will be the best years of your life. Like, why don't we learn something there instead of like giving these crazy parents what they want essentially at the end?
Yeah, they did not break the cycle at all.
Yeah.
I guess that, they could have banded together and say like, you know what would probably be even more badass to be in control of our destiny is to
Let's all
like,
just go to Wendy's.
let's not even fucking finish the game. Like,
Yeah.
what a bigger fuck you to the town and to our parents and to Coach Fuckface if we just
Uh-huh.
don't even play anymore. Like, why are you
Mhm.
playing? Like, we don't have to do this. We're not getting paid. You
And
know,
like I fully recognize that there is resolution in like them revolting against the coach. That's kind of, I guess that's the point of the movie. They're getting out from underneath him.
yeah.
But the last like 30 minutes of the movie is built on this like idea where like the coach like literally like threatens Vanderbeek, where he's like, if you don't play the way that I want you to play, I'm gonna mess with your transcripts and your scholarship, because I know that you have a scholarship to Brown and they're gonna pay for all your stuff. And
Yeah.
so
Like,
that becomes like the dramatic push at the end of this movie, is like Vanderbeek's going into this game thinking like, what am I going to do? And then he just he does his own stuff anyway, and it kind of doesn't matter.
yeah,
And
it just works out.
I want the follow through, you know.
Yeah.
um
So are you saying we should have a like an animated sequel? I mean, because we can't. This movie is 25 years old.
mhm.
No one looks like they used to 25 years ago. So we should do it animated of
Animated.
Varsity Blues 1.5, where it's like the immediate follow up where Johnny Moxon calls a town hall meeting
Uh-huh.
and he's like, "Look, y'all got to back the fuck up on the next year's football team. Y'all are crazy. All of you adults are living in a fantasy world.
Uh-huh.
Everyone's a washed up piece of shit. My mom's a drunk ass. Like can hardly compose herself.
I don't think
Um,
she's a drunk. Where are you getting that?
she's a drunk. Go back and watch
where
it.
where are you, Vanderbeek's mom?
Vanderbeek's mom in the movie is drunk as a skunk every single scene she's in.
What?
Yeah, dude. She's got a problem. And then like you've got this masochistic coach that everybody worships,
Mhm.
and then his little brother's off starting cults, which
Oh my
is
god, the little brother! I laughed every time.
so funny. Like as a side character, that is so amazing. I love that. That little piece. But like there's so much inherently wrong with this entire town. There's only like one squad car in the entire town and two active police officers.
Yeah.
And like there are zero consequences. This town would like surely cannibalized itself. It couldn't have lasted much longer than another generation.
Listen, I I think what I'm asking for here is maybe a more fleshed out and longer story. This is very much like a window into this team. It's like from mid season to mid to end season. Like, cuz
Yeah.
they're probably going on to state at this point. It's not even like the final championship.
Oh yeah, there's still another game they got to play.
And so let me kind of loop that into what my experience is with this movie before having watched it. It is part of Varsity Blues. Varsity Blues is part of like a quadrant of media that contains Varsity Blues, Friday Night Lights the movie, Friday Night Lights the show, and the television show The Office. Now let me explain.
Ooh,
Let me explain.
do tell.
I always got things confused with like what Varsity Blues was or wasn't, and I always thought it was a TV show because there's an episode of The Office where one of like Michael's bits is that he keeps on making them watch Varsity Blues.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's like every day for like multiple weeks they get into the conference room and they're just watching Varsity Blues. So I am watching that thinking like, oh, they're just watching episodes of Varsity Blues. And so I got that confused with Friday Night Lights, which I then eventually watched. And Friday Night Lights is based the TV show is
Mhm.
based off of a movie. Have you seen Friday Night Lights?
I haven't seen a lick of that.
Oh my God, Justin. Okay. So let me explain to you kind of the similarities and difference here. It is starts as a movie starring Billy Bob Thornton as the head coach.
Mhm.
Think of the town in Texas where it takes place. It is this exact same town in
Okay.
Varsity Blues.
Okay.
It's there one for one. Yeah. And there's like a party kid who's really good, but he's like getting in trouble with the law. There's the QB that gets injured, and so the second QB has to come in. Billy Bob Thornton is the coach. Connie Britton is his wife. They
Mm.
translate that into a TV show that runs for 5 seasons, except they switch out the coach with
Dylan
fuck,
McDermott.
fuck. What's his name? What's Kyle Chandler? Kyle Chandler.
Mm.
Listen, the key thing that is missing for me here is that Friday Night Lights, Kyle Chandler is like the greatest coach of all time. And like he is what I mean when I say like father figure to these boys, you know?
Yeah.
Um
These boys.
it's and so that show is able to kind of take a story like this and stretch it over like 5 years. And so you get multiple seasons of football within
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so you have kind of the ups and downs. You have these characters growing and stuff and figuring out like what is life before football? What is life during football? What is life after football? Even though it still exists within these exact same archetypes. Which is why when I'm watching this movie, I immediately clocked like Paul Walker's doomed, right?
Oh, 100%.
Even though in this movie he kind of just like twists his leg. In Friday Night Lights, like not to spoil anything, that guy gets paralyzed.
Oh God.
And so the other guy has to come in, and that's like episode 1. You have to watch Friday Night Lights. It's one of the best shows of all time.
Amazing. I am aware that the soundtrack to the TV show, I think,
Mhm.
is done by the incredible band Explosions in the Sky.
Okay.
It's like
Like
it's like ethereal guitars
yeah,
and
the theme, the credits. Yeah.
yeah. And that's
It's
all I know about it.
it's so good. There's so many parallels to draw here. Obviously not like R-rated parallels, but in terms of having like more of like a grounded drama with some comedy elements in this like really kind of working class Texas town.
Mhm.
Uh just think of like Varsity Blues, but like 5 seasons of it.
Sure. Yeah, that
I
makes sense.
cannot recommend it enough. The amount of stuff they're able to like do in the show and make you care about with each of these players. Like
Oh,
imagine
yeah.
if Scott Kahn's character had like an entire arc in this movie instead
Mm.
of being like, I'm just running from the cops now. I'm the
Yeah,
party
like,
guy.
surely okay, first of all, surely every single character, every single starting person on the team has to go to therapy.
Yeah.
There is so much baggage that everybody is carrying. Um, but yeah, I would love to see like a turnaround arc of where like senior year, like he's like, yeah, I don't drink. I'm clean. Uh, I've done all
Just
my partying.
Justin, get into it.
Get into
If
it.
you wanna watch Varsity Blues, but then wonder like what happens to these kids when they realize like maybe they aren't going pro? Like what are they gonna do with their lives? What does football actually mean once you get out of high school?
Yeah,
Ooh.
like I wish they would have. Those are the more accurate things to kind of deal with in high school age movies, or at
Mhm.
least should be brought up because that is the big time of any kid's life of just like, well, what do I do now? I won the big game, and what for? Kind of a
Yeah.
thing. Like from this movie, like the seeds of dissension and revolution were so quickly sprouted. Like
Uh-huh.
it should have been planted, junior year, sophomore year while they were playing. Of
Yeah.
like something's wrong with this town, but I can't quite put my finger on it, and then come to fruition and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you get that a little bit with like the dads of all these boys all also played football and are clearly obsessed with it, and like they all peaked in high school. But
Yeah.
you almost want something like, oh, someone's older brother a few years back, like, yeah, like got too drunk and died in a car crash, and like that's the
Ooh.
shadow over this movie. Or John Voight like pushed him too hard, and you want like a little bit more context to like drive this rather than dropping us into this season and all of a sudden like everyone's going crazy.
Yeah, like there's a cover up manslaughter case against John Voight's character. Like he pushed a
Hmm.
kid too far and he died of heat stroke, but like
Yeah.
the coroner's report was clean, but like obviously he shouldn't have been, that would have been great.
So speaking of just like the evils of John Voight in this movie, I
Yeah,
wrote
let's
down
dig in.
so many times that he's evil, and then I think at one point I was like, "What if they killed him in this scene? Where would that take the movie?"
Yeah, what if they
Um,
tackled him to death?
so you first get it when Paul Walker has like a little injury to his knee, and then they take him to a back room, and he has his little like assistant coach doctor person
Mhm.
like shoot something into his knee in a syringe. Did we think that was like steroids or something? What is actually happening there?
It's either like, cortisol, not cortisol, but it's something like that, my dad has really bad knees,
Uh-huh.
and when he used to play, adult league hockey, he would do something like that every so often, and I think it's cortisol or something like that, and it just kinda, like, lubes up the joints and loosens up the ligaments and stuff there a little bit,
Mhm.
to make them less stiff. So it's probably that, probably some steroids, probably some kind of numbing agent or whatever, because it comes out like after the surgery, after the big like fuck up with his knee of the doctor's like, yeah, he really shouldn't have been playing because there was so much scar tissue on this boy's knee.
It's just all pulp and wood chips in there right now.
Yeah, it's being held together by like old newspaper and like toilet paper rolls and stuff like that. Like, who did this? And coach is like, I don't know. First time ever hearing about it. Uh,
I do like it at the beginning there because it immediately makes it apparent that like John Voight is the villain of this movie, and he's not just like a hard ass with a heart of gold that's going to like, you know, drive this team forward. It's more like, oh no, this guy's a psycho. We have to like get out from under him. So I'm
yeah,
glad like you're not confused about that going through this movie. Like John Voight's the bad guy. Period.
John Voight is, yeah, the epitome of evil. Like his intro scene, it's the pep rally, and it's like a blurry shot of the crowd, and then just like his hand comes into frame, and everybody silences. And it's just like, oh, this guy's like dictator level of commanding a space, and he like fucking gets off on that shit. He loves it. And yeah, like every single scene that he is in, he is just like chewing it up. There's not an ounce of humanity left in him. He is a fantastic fucking villain in this movie. I love him.
Chilling.
Chilling.
Absolutely chilling.
Yeah.
And then I think like the latter half of this movie, once you get through the Paul Walker stuff, is like the stuff that he puts onto Billy Bob kind of like
Ooh,
leads to uh that guy almost having, well, pretty much having a breakdown.
100%. Yeah.
And so in a lot of cases, you're like, okay, is this the scene where Billy Bob does something crazy?
Yeah.
Because the movie starts out with Billy Bob being like so happy and joyous, and he's picking everybody up in his truck and everybody's friends. And then he gets a concussion during a football game, and that leads to Paul Walker getting ousted or tackled or whatever. And then John Voight, who knows all of this, then
Oh, 100%.
chooses
He does.
to completely put it on to this 17-year-old kid to the point where he's just driving him insane.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
it's
psychological warfare he's waging on these boys.
Yeah.
He's passing the blame, he's passing the buck, he's pulling a Trump. It's horrifying to watch and to see this predator, you know, just break down and, just eviscerate these kids with like a word, or with a lot of physical like fuckery, grabbing the helmet and just like shoving him around so like he has to constantly look at him is so demeaning and so um, just violent, and you really do wish for his death by the end. That does
Yeah.
not come. But apparently, like, no one ever saw him or heard from him again after that game. So, like, maybe he just like went into the swamp and was never seen or
He
heard
just like disappeared into the cornfield. Yeah.
again. Yeah. Some say he turned into birds and just flew away. Uh, let's talk a little bit about some of the supporting roles. We already talked about James Van Der Beek, kind of like killing it in this role.
Yeah. And
Um,
I never saw Dawson's Creek, so I don't really have a lot of Vanderbeek connection here.
I've seen some Dawson's Creek, and it's kind of like cringy 90, but it's kind of its era. But I'm gonna talk just like a little bit. Paul Walker is hardly in this movie, but damn it, he's cute.
God,
Miss
we we really lost a power in Hollywood with that
he
one.
he is such a like golden retriever in this movie.
Yeah.
Um, even though he's hardly in it. Um, but that made America, stand up in their soaking wet jeans and said, "I want more Paul Walker.
Yeah.
Give me more Paul Walker. Put him in a movie about fast cars." And they did. Um, Amy
Because
Smart.
Chapman.
A- you got a fast car. Amy Smart is hardly in this movie also. But she's also kind of a semi-grounded character,
Uh-huh.
akin to James Van Der Beek. Even though her role kind of suffers from the non-committal, you know, exclusive
Yeah.
kind of stuff with her and James Van Der Beek.
So many times in this movie I had to be like, wait, are they not boyfriend girlfriend? Like, is that what we're supposed to believe? Because like the way that this town wants Vanderbeek to cheat on Amy Smart the entire time is insane. So she is Paul Walker's younger sister who is like, I roll about football. I just want to get out of this town. I'm kind of dating the second string quarterback who is Vanderbeek because he's more on my side of things. He doesn't care as much about football.
Yeah.
Vanderbeek becomes first string, starts to soak in some of the popularity there. And then they kind of just like he full on cheats on her. I want to talk about the Ali Larter of it all. And then it kind of becomes okay. Like she gets mad at him, and then towards the end with the big game, they kind of just come back together, and she's like, "What? Why are you being a pussy? Why don't you just play football?" And I'm like, "Where did this come from? Why aren't you leaving to go to Oklahoma State or something?" I don't know.
Go 2 states over. Don't go just 1 state over, baby. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really troubling of just like what there should have been way more consequences to what happened, because he was just like, I've known her my entire life, and nothing happened except we made out and she was totally butt naked, covered in whipped cream.
And then we made
Uh,
out again in the school in front of everyone, and that was supposed to be okay. Listen, let's
listen,
talk. Let's
let's
talk
talk Ali
Ali.
Larter.
Let's talk Ali Larter. We're there. My experience with Ali Larter, as it should be, is from the television show Heroes.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that she was like the whipped cream bikini of it all. I didn't realize that was this movie, but now it makes sense because I'm like, all I know is like Chris Evans making fun of that in the Not Another Teen movie.
Yeah,
So that's parodying this movie clearly.
Joe, who
So
wore it better?
don't ask me that, Justin.
Don't ask me that.
She looks great in the bikini. It's very well put together and like nice like bush area and all that.
But there's no banana present.
There's no banana. So Ali Larter plays the head cheerleader who is madly in love and dating Paul Walker at the beginning of this movie, or so we think, because he gets injured at the hospital. You have the classic scene of the whole family, and then Ali Larter and Vanderbeek at the hospital being like, "How is he, doc? Is he gonna walk again?" And the doctor's like, "No, his
No.
knee is vaporized at this point. It's gonna be a year and a half. Say goodbye to your scholarship to Florida State." Ali Larter runs off, and you think like, oh, she's just too emotional, she can't handle this, she's going to be like the sweet cheerleader girlfriend and try to like get through this like moment of crippledness with her boyfriend. That's where I'm coming from, because I'm an innocent, naive child, and I watched that same storyline play out on Friday Night Lights, because again, that
It's
exact
the
same
same thing.
storyline plays out, except like it follows the cheerleader for like 4 seasons, and she kind of like grows in different ways.
And
Now,
it's Cool Whip,
Allie
not
Larder
yeah.
immediately jumps into a car with Vanderbeek because she knows that he is now first string quarterback. He is her new ticket out of this town.
Mm.
Immediately tries to seduce him, keeps trying to seduce him for the next like half hour or so, culminating in her inviting him over to her house at night to have like a little hangout or whatever, which leads to her coming out in, you know, the iconic whipped cream bikini scene. And at this point, I'm like, okay, this is kind of cheap. This is maybe isn't fair to Allie Larder's character because it seems kind of insane. And then here's where the movie surprised me and kind of took a turning point. He says no, like this is way too insane, after they share a little kiss, because he remembers Amy Smart exists or something like that.
Yeah.
And then she kind of like gets pissed at him, and then they have a little moment on the couch where she reveals like, this is kind of like a business transaction for me. Like this is my ticket out of town, and I'm doing what I have to do. And
Mhm.
I'll say it, like she sells it for me in that way. Like it doesn't feel cheap or stupid when that scene happens. I'm kind of like, whoa, I'm just getting vertigo because there's like 3 more layers of depth added to this whole scene now. And
Yeah.
it's kind of, I like where they end it with them, to where like they kind of come to an understanding and they're friends a little bit. And he's like, you know, you just read some books. You're going to get out of this town on your own, Allie Larder. And like she ends up being okay. She kind of falls out of the movie at that point. She's in the background of a lot more things.
Yeah.
And then, so I like where they end that. It's just like he kind of faces no consequences for any of this, even though like they kind of kiss again in the school the next day, right in front of Amy Smart. It's very weird.
Yeah.
But I'm very pro Allie Larder in this movie, is where I want to end this ramble.
This rant, okay. This rant over pro Allie Larder, because
Uh-huh.
yeah, you're right. Okay, so there was no representation of side characters of like, well, where's my chance? How the hell am I going to get the fuck out of this town?
Uh-huh.
And in that regard, it's a little Shakespearean
Yeah.
in that way, where she's like, or even kind of Game of Thrones is also Shakespearean too, but of just like the king has fallen, he's the new king, he doesn't know it yet, and
Yeah.
I'm setting my sights to him for to claim my kingdom. I'm just gonna do it in a sexy way, and he won't be able to resist me. So like,
Again, this movie was playing with some real interesting stuff, I thought,
yeah,
that I was not expecting it to be.
if they, and back to my original point, if they had a different producing company, a different investor, something like that, different writing staff, maybe a couple more tweaks to it, they could have really had something really special. Not
But
to say that it's not already, but like they
you
could
know what
have.
this needs?
What does it need?
Varsity Blues remake as a mini series. So
Mm.
not a whole ass TV show, but give me like 6 to 8 episodes where, you know, first couple you think the coach is kind of a hard ass, but he's got a heart of gold. Something insane happens. Kid dies. Now it's like, we got to get this coach out of here. The Allie Lauder stuff happens in the middle of all of that, and we like see her escape the town in like episode 6. Vanderbeek cameos in episode 7, and then you get to have like a last episode after the game where it's like, what did it all mean? What did we actually learn here? Where are we going forward, rather than fading to black right as the touchdown happens?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. But yeah,
How is
let's
this
put
not happening?
let's put some resolution on the actions of these people. Let's show the town revolting against the coach. Let's show them like hoisting him out of town into the river. Like, let's push the envelope a little bit more, folks. Like, kill a character off, you know? Have someone like arrested and really go to jail and have to live with their actions.
Yeah.
Couple other things, and we'll wrap up this movie discussion. This movie is quoted as Regina George's favorite movie.
Oh yeah,
So
I forgot. Her favorite movie is Varsity Blues.
Yeah. Um, as you already mentioned, this movie is heavily, heavily spoofed in Not Another Teen Movie.
Huh.
Did you see that, or do you just know just the Chris Evans of it
I,
all?
I I know of it heavily.
Yeah, there's like even from some of like the football scenes from that movie, the actor who plays Billy Bob reprises a similar role. He's Reggie Ray in this
Hmm.
movie, in Not Another Teen Movie, but same kind of a thing. He keeps getting concussions, and they're just like, "Oh, classic Reggie Ray." Uh, like some of the players get like bisected because they're getting tackled so hard because of their actions. It's ridiculous. But this has that typical formula of a teen 90s movie, which is just it's high on the melodrama.
Uh huh.
Everything is high stakes because it's all these kids know, right? And the popular phrasing of, like the rest of our lives, like this is a blank that we're going to have to deal with for the rest of our lives, or like let's play like it's going to matter for the rest of our lives, because like that's all these kids have known for 4 years of high school, and they take it so seriously. And it's everything. It's the same story from not Can't Hardly Wait, where it's like this party is
Hmm.
everything. Popularity is everything. This relationship is everything that I've ever known, and it will forever define me. But they need to open their eyes.
It's 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 great and normal for the movie to show the kids thinking like that, because that's a normal thing to do in high school, thinking everything is the craziest thing that's ever happened and it's going to be the rest of your life. I think what this movie does a good job of is showing like what happens when the adults in the situation, who are supposed to be saying like, oh, it's not a big deal, you'll have a life after high school, are instead saying, yeah, this is it, this is the best moment of your life, this is all you'll ever have.
Yeah, it's
um
it's perfectly culminated in one of the last scenes that Mox has with his dad. Like he
mhm.
gets his acceptance letter to Brown, and he's so excited and over the moon.
Insane scene.
And his dad's just like, "Yeah, yeah, but I need to talk to you about the game tonight." And he's like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Tell me how it
Yeah,
goes."
I
Like,
I want more. I want more comeuppance there. I want
yeah,
like another scene with the dad to be like, it's your dream, dad.
which they had that, but like no one took it to heart. No one
Yeah, he
followed
he
through.
still goes and wins the football game. Like,
Yeah.
what did we learn here?
What did we learn? Varsity Blues. What did we learn actually? We learned nothing. Wrapping up with some final thoughts here, Joe. Some quotes that stuck with me even before I had to write them down. I mentioned it in our Can't Hardly Wait episode. It was part of the end game quiz of the I don't want your life. It's just always stuck in my brain,
Hmm.
as well as with the sex ed teacher of the penis, 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 vagina, 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 which is incredible, and I think about it all the time.
I think
Uh,
the quote that I wrote down was "Whiners on the glass at the Alanos Club."
yeah, wangers, yeah. Watching that scene with closed captioning on, it's wangers,
Wangers.
Wangers. Like, there wangers out? Yeah, wangers everywhere.
I thought it was just heavily accented wieners. Oh,
That's what closed captioning said. It said wangers. Hilarious. Some of my favorite scenes, just for some reason, it's in the trailer, but I'll always remember when I think of this movie, is the slow motion helmet takeoff for James Vanderbeek. His face is just dirty, and it's in super slow motion, and it's really like visceral. For some
yeah.
reason, that shot sticks with me. Um, the whole strip club scene, playing Van Halen, "Hot for Teacher," and then the subsequent hungover gameplay is just so iconic.
I thought that scene was ridiculous. I did like how they kind of just hung out with the teacher at the end, and they're all just, they're buds. They have an
Yeah,
understanding
they
now.
have an understanding. It's also ridiculous that they were at the strip club for 9 hours straight.
Yeah.
What
I was
strip
like,
club is
where is this
open?
coming from?
What strip club is open at 7 in the morning and not gonna let, like, kick 6 18-year-olds out? ridiculous. The amount of teen drinking is unacceptable.
Well, it all feeds back into like this town will let these teens get away with anything. They are gods.
They are gods, these boys. And then, as noted by the trailer, "My Hero" is one of my favorite Foo Fighters songs.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I think of that song, I don't think of the music video. I don't even picture Dave Grohl. I don't think of anything else but that football, like that blocked punt scene.
Uh-huh.
It's and I think it was in one of the trailers for this movie too, the original trailers, because they loved that song. They played it twice in the movie, and it's just such a rad song. But it just for some reason just makes me think of just slow motion football in Texas.
I
And
think you want, do you know what my connection to that song is?
what?
Have you ever seen the other guys with Will Ferrell and
Yes, yeah.
Mark Wahlberg? I think that song plays at the beginning with Samuel L. Jackson and The Rock when they like
Mhm.
are trying to look cool and they jump off the building to land
Yeah,
on the awning and they just straight up die.
yeah. I know what you're talking about.
So good.
Very, very different. Give me some of your closing thoughts here. Like, I
Yeah,
love that we peeled back the onion on this movie a lot.
I was telling you, I had a good time. We've been kind of on like a weirdly negative stretch of movies, and like I had a good time with this one. Let me kind of look at some notes I had highlighted. This movie is so no, it's your dream coded. Would be a shame if John Voight ended up getting fired.
Would be a shame, wouldn't
Um,
it?
I'm pretty sure my high school football team had a cocaine scandal. So like crazy
Ooh,
drug stuff. Holy shit, is that Jesse Plemons? It was.
it was.
Let me see. Is Billy Bob going to die? I wrote that like 10 times. Real QBs get paralyzed. Um,
That shout out Friday Night Lights.
uh, he becomes starting QB and the whole town immediately wants to fuck him. Is Amy Smart a ghost that only he can see?
Probably. That's amazing.
Let me see. Shooting the trophies is kind of hardcore, yeah. The big game at the end of this movie being for district. I don't get out of bed for anything below state.
Yeah.
And then let me see. I would quit this team so quickly and I would tell my parents everything. Are you insane?
I'm telling
And
mom.
why does he keep hitting the mascots? This I didn't understand that. So much of this movie is about figuring out the rules for how the clock works in football, which has always confused me. It's all about like stopping and starting the clock.
Which I'm pretty sure. Okay, ooh, yeah, that is the theme. How do you stop the clock of the
I
town that keeps you stuck in the rut of?
Wow. Dig into it.
I don't know if that's a rule. I don't know if you can do that. If you can just throw the ball at a person on the sidelines and it stops stops the game.
He does it like twice. It becomes his signature move is to like chuck a ball at the mascot. And
Yeah,
then I'm guessing like once the ball goes out of bounds, that stops the clock and that lets everyone like have a break and regroup.
but if you do it
Otherwise,
intentionally,
I've
what
I've never fully understand what keeps the clock going versus what stops it.
that feels
If
like
anyone's
cheating.
listening and knows, right into us, please.
It feels like cheating, which we know James Vanderbeek as Jonathan Moxon loves to do.
Mhm.
Great. That was a wonderful insight, Joe. Watching this as an adult versus a 12-year-old is very different experiences and a lot of eye-opening shit um, coming to light watching this movie as an older person.
Mhm.
Um, with that, let's move into Endgame, shall we?
Hang on.
Oh, oh,
We forgot it because we keep forgetting it. What you drinking tonight, Justin?
it's all gone.
I know mine's
Um,
all gone too.
I made something called a Moxie Lady. Uh,
Ooh,
it was a rum, blue curacao, sweet and sour mix, and creme de coconut, topped with whipped cream and a cherry.
that actually sounds kind of amazing. How was it?
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made what I'm calling a Texas Forever, and it is a beer in a can.
Yeah, that's right. Is that a Cigar City lager?
It's a classic city lager.
Classic city lager.
It's a creature comforts.
I almost too. Almost grabbed a beer too because I
It's a
was
beer
like,
movie.
"It's a beer movie. This you drink a beer and just have a good time. Just guys being dudes."
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, let's get into Endgame.
Let's get into games.
Yeah, we're recycling the '90s teen quiz because this is a '90s teen movie, Joe. Um, so what we're gonna do here is I'm going to present and share my screen. Can you
Ooh.
see my screen?
It's
Um,
coming up. Hang on, hang on. Yes, I can see it.
I can see it. Yep. Great. Everyone, cameras on. Great.
Okay.
We're doing the '90s teen quiz. Can you see the whole thing, or is our faces obscuring it?
Your face is obscuring the bottom right, but it might be okay.
We'll do
Oh,
this.
there you go. There you go.
Great. This is the '90s teen quiz 2, Mox's Big Break. Um, so Joe, this movie is not only rife with teen heartthrobs who were just getting their careers started, but it came out during the time of teen comedies and dramas that launched numerous careers. Let's look at some of those said careers. James Vanderbeek may have gotten his big break on the hit TV show Dawson's Creek, but what famous kid TV show did he get his first credit role in? Is it Are You Afraid of the Dark, All That, or Clarissa Explains It All?
I had a VHS growing up that was like a quadruple Are You Afraid of the Dark? Clarissa Explains It All, Ren and Stimpy, and Roundhouse. Do you remember that?
I do.
Um, I'm going to say I don't think it's Clarissa. I've never seen all that. I'm going to say Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Should have gone with your first instinct. It was actually Clarissa Explains It
God
All.
damn it.
He
I was so young.
Yeah, during a party, Clarissa falls for a drummer named Polly while pretending to be a hypercool dressed character named Jade. Initially, she assumes the Jade persona when meeting Polly, but eventually she comes clean, like she always does.
Clarissa,
Well, Clarissa, what are you doing?
you got to be true to yourself.
Honey, what are you doing? Okay. Question 2. Hottie Paul Walker made a name for himself via the Fast and Furious franchise, but years prior, he had a long stint on what beloved American soap opera? Is that General Hospital, The Young and the Restless, or The Bold and the Beautiful?
He is both young and restless, but I'm weirdly thinking the bold and the beautiful. I'm going to say that.
Mm. Joe, you're going to have to make a correction in your
God
initial feelings.
damn.
It's The Young and the Restless.
You just need to cut off my audio when I'm still saying the right stuff.
Yeah. The show has been the highest rated daytime drama on American television for 34 years as of the end of the 21-22 season, which is insane, and has
Damn.
been at the top of the weekly Nielsen ratings for more than 1,000 weeks since 1988. That's so many weeks.
I've never caught it.
I haven't either. That says a lot about us. Allie Larder may have played a ruthless, horny monster in Varsity Blues. Joe's an apologist, but
Uh-huh.
but she was also in a couple of episodes of Dawson's Creek. Which co-star of Vanderbeek's was she flirting with in the show? And I realized my mistake here, but
Freebie.
was it Pacey, played by Joshua Jackson, Dawson, played by James Vanderbeek, or Joey, played by Katie Holmes? It's 50-50.
I would say that Dawson's Creek was right around the time when it would have been a little edgy for her to be flirting with Katie Holmes. So I'll say Joey Katie Holmes.
And you'd be wrong yet again. It was
I'm gonna
Pacey's
jump
character.
off a cliff.
Pacey's character. You're going to take your shotgun and go blow up all your trophies.
Yeah.
Played by Joshua Jackson. Now, she played a character named Christy, who is Cape Side High's most popular girl, a cheerleader, and a senior when the gang are in their sophomore year.
Wow.
Wow. The more you know about Dawson's. Hot-headed son of a gun John Voight plays a masterful villain in Varsity Blues, but got his breakout role starring in what 1969 American drama? Was that Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? They shoot horses, don't they? Or Midnight Cowboy?
See, now you're speaking my language. It is Midnight Cowboy.
Finally, Joe, you got one right. It is Midnight Cowboy. Incredible stuff. The film cleaned up at the 42nd Academy Awards with 7 nominations and 3 wins for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Adapted Screenplay,
It's the
alongside
only
Dustin Hoffman.
X-rated movie to win Best Picture. It's either X or NC-17.
Amazing. Is there does he hang dong?
I think they hang all the stuff. I've never seen it.
Should put that on the list. I think this is the last one. Amy Smart reached her largest viewing audience with Varsity Blues, but she made for her feature debut in 1997's The Last Time I Committed Suicide, which was a film starring Thomas Jane and what other Uncultured Universe alum that we've talked about? Is it Keanu Reeves, Russell Crowe, or Ewan McGregor?
1997, Last Time I Committed Suicide. I'll say Keanu Reeves.
Joe, you're on a hot streak. Keanu Reeves is the
Hell
correct
yeah.
answer.
So
Yeah,
we'll call it a B+ for this game.
yeah. This movie's based on a 1950 letter written by the beat poet Neil Cassidy to Jack Kerouac.
Wow.
Wow, I know. Well, we're digging up so much gold here. Joe, way to go. You did it. What hell of a game that you played.
Yeah.
You might have shattered your ankle, broke your knee, or whatever it is, but you're still coming out on top.
I can still play, coach.
Put me in.
Get me back in there.
I considered playing with just a Texas accent the whole time and just seeing how that did, but I couldn't commit.
You've got some Texas background, do you not?
I lived in Texas for 2 years, and it was hell on earth. I did not like it. It was terrible. I didn't enjoy it.
Oh dear.
I was like 8 and 9. I hated it. Joe, why don't you tee up what is coming next for the universe?
Yes, sir. As viewers and listeners know, we are in the middle of, I can't get out of the accent. We're in the middle of our sports miniseries here at Uncultured Universe. So I will close it out with a movie that Justin has not seen that is a sports movie, but is also very much not a sports movie. We're going to be watching Field of Dreams, starring one Mr. Kevin Costner. Justin, I can't believe you haven't seen it. It's a crazy movie. I'm really excited to get into it.
It's got ghosts, I'm given to understand, or apparitions of some sort, or does this all take place in his mind? We will find out next week.
Get ready to talk about corn and Iowa.
The two things the state is known for. Incredible stuff. This has been another episode of Uncultured Universe Does Varsity Blues. Check us out on all the socials at Uncultured Universe on Instagram and TikTok. I think we're on a couple other places. Maybe we're on Movie Phone, or what's the other one that you haven't figured out yet? The movie
Letterboxd.
Letterboxd. Yeah, check us out there. But follow us wherever you get your podcasted and wherever you consume your media. And we'll catch you later for some baseball and ghosts. Bye.
Bye.